The GSK Award for Research Excellence is focusing on my work in looking at neurodegeneration and dementia, particularly function of the brain, physiology, and how alterations in brain function can lead to excitotoxicity, a process of degeneration that spreads through the brain, involves the spinal cord, and leads to muscle wasting. But with neurodegeneration and dementia, we didn't know how these conditions began, how they spread through the brain. We lacked mechanistic insight. So we've been able to understand that there are different forms of dementia and neurodegeneration, and they're linked to different proteins. And our research is suggesting that there's a functional change in the brain, a change in the physiology that leads to a hyperexcitability. And it's a bit like looking at a forest, and a fire has walked through the forest, has ripped through the forest, and that in the end has left all of these charred remains. And that's the protein abnormalities that we see in the brain. So what we want to do in terms of trying to treat those protein abnormalities is to go back to the functional or physiological changes in the brain that are causing these abnormalities. In terms of the accomplishments from our work, part of the original process was being involved in clinical trials. And when I started in neurology, there were no treatments available for motor neurone disease or frontotemporal dementia. And what we wanted to do is that every patient who's diagnosed with these horrendous, universally fatal conditions has access to clinical trials throughout the course of their disease.
When Matthew and I first started working together, I said, would you like to work in motor neuron disease in children? And he went, definitely. And so that was a huge opportunity for us to establish clinical trial readiness. And at the time, there were no treatment options for these children. But really, I think it speaks to Matthew's career, where he's always been open to new ideas and open to hope and opportunities. And so for one of the most desperate, hopeless cases, we've really paved the way for clinical trials.
I was extremely delighted about Matthew and his team winning the 2024 GSK Award for Research Excellence, particularly because I've had family members suffer from dementia and recently pass away from motor neuron disease. So I was very excited about the hope that Matthew is bringing in a tangible way for people suffering from neurodegenerative diseases.
The GSK Research Excellence Awards helps to really elevate research that's being undertaken in Australia to the Australian community. Lots of people want to know what is happening, how are we tackling the tsunami of dementia and neurodegeneration. So by promoting research and research discovery outcomes, it's incredibly important to bring the community along on this journey of discovery. In terms of the future and where our research is going, obviously what we'd like to do is make sure that no Australian or international patient ever has to face a diagnosis of motor neurone disease, neurodegeneration, frontotemporal dementia. These are universally fatal conditions, and at the moment we don't have really effective therapies. It'd be great if we could just turn it off and they would be a thing of the past. We know that's possible in terms of vascular disease, and that's been 20 or 30 years ahead of us, treatments of cancer, treatments of melanoma, and we hope to follow in that line. And we now are starting to get mechanistic insight, which leads to focused therapies and inevitably will lead to improved outcomes for patients.